Yo, what's up, everybody? What's up? What's up, everybody? Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome. What's up, Steph? Vegas in the house. Steph, listen, guess what I'm listening to right now? I'm listening to The Boy Is Mine remix with Monica and Brandy. And listen to this bridge. Can you hear? Can y'all hear this music? Right? It's a vibe. It's that bridge. Listen. All right, we got to run that back. Just the bridge part. But I heard this bridge recently. It has to be the chokehold. So run it back. Y'all can hear it. Oh, I hope I can run it back. Oh, that's not it. I do like that song. That's not it. Ah! You! Did we ever figure out if YouTube would flag if I don't have like unlicensed music? I don't think we figured that part out, did we?
Maybe don't say that.
Oh yeah, oh shit. Yeah, don't say that. That's right, don't say that. What's up, everybody? We're here just grooving and jamming. Coming off of the Sway the Morning Show, listen to some really great R&B and made me come back to the song The Boy Is Mine remix with Ariana Grande with Monica and Brandy. And I recently just heard this bridge part to this song. And so we're gonna rock out and just play it back one more time. Has anyone heard this song before? The remix. This is for R&B folks. I don't know if folks like everything like R&B, but this is if you love R&B, this bridge slaps. All right, so we're gonna play it one more time. This is I'm coming up right here. Right here. Monica. Right? Five. Okay, so y'all are my people. Y'all are jamming too, right? I got some fire emojis going, some hearts. You my YouTube fan. Hobo Cop, you always gotta. There's always one in the party that just throws water on the whole thing. But we're gonna rock out until they boot us out. But that's my jam right there. Like a chokehold, folks. Just a pure chokehold. All right, we're gonna get started. But I do want to play one other song that has me in the chokehold. This was Billie Eilish, Cheer Can y'all hear it? This is for my two-steppers out here in the Midwest. Kind of strange, feeling sorrow. I got change, you could borrow. I'm gonna take y'all just to the chorus. Anybody in the Midwest? Two steppers, ballroom hustle. Some Detroit, what up, though? Can you open up the door? I know you said before you can't cope with anymore. You told me it was war, said you'd show me what's in store. I hope it's not for sure. Can you open up the door? Did you? Alright, that's it. Y'all, I'm in a vibe right now, man. We just rocking out having a good time. I'm excited to be back here in the MuseRoom. Took some time off on vacation. Yeah, if you follow me on my vacation, I'm still fist bumping. You can fist bump to anything, whether it's a slow jam, whether it's house music or the Mediterranean, or you're just in the crib in New York City, just bumping it up. But fist bumping gives me such a reaction. And based upon the reaction that you guys are getting, you guys are vibing with me too as well. Y'all love music, love the two-step, love the fist bump. If you don't fist bump when you at a party, man, you're not living. I'm excited. We have a lot to talk about. Yo, y'all have been active here in America while I've been in Europe. You guys have been quite busy doing a lot of things, and I have to unpack all the things because y'all know how to act. But as usual, we love to do a roll call. We love to see where everybody is at. I see some dancing people is here. Yeah, man, I'm back in Crunk, Kadita. Yeah, I love dance. I love having a good time, if you can't tell. All right, so like, where is everybody at? Let's do a quick roll call. I see Vegas is in the house. Oh, we got Syracuse is in the house. What's up? All right, let me see if this works. All right, check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. Check 1 2 1 2. All right, I think I'm back. Maybe. I'm gonna keep talking. Does it seem to be working, Kat, a little bit on yours?
I'm still, I gotta.
Oh, you're buffering. Okay. Okay. Steph says we're here. We see you now. We're good. Okay. Thank you. Man, I was just going and flowing. All right. Thank you, Lisa. I am back. It seems like I switched. Something's probably going on with my Wi-Fi here. So I switched my Wi-Fi. So hopefully we are back and we can keep moving and keep grooving. Oh man, I was flowing. All right, all good. I love y'all. Welcome back. Come on back in. Come on back in. What I was saying was that if you see me smiling, there's a couple things at play here. I'm very aware that these are serious subject matters and this is a very serious time period and a lot of lives are being impacted. My smile is I'm back. I love talking with you all. I'm excited. I'm feeling good. But the second thing I'm excited for too as well is that I love political analysis. I'm a policy wonk. This stuff I literally enjoy. Like I really have a cup of coffee here because I'm just, this is enjoyable for me. I just think that we're living through history. As I was saying before, as our buffering was that, you know, in school, we studied the women's suffrage, civil rights, World War I, World War II. I do believe, I don't know what historians are going to call this time period that we are in, but this time period will be studied and it will be called something. I do believe that people will get their PhDs in this. And our grandchildren will actually be studying this time period when they get to grade school. And so for me, it's living history and I'm excited. It's rare that you can see such transformative movements in time periods. And I understand that comes at a cost. So sometimes if you see me smiling, I don't take it lightly. I'm just excited for what we're doing and what's happening here. I just saw the corner of my eye. Somebody's a Buckeye. Jesus Christ, the Buckeyes are in the building. Who let them in? Wolverines attack. I'm joking with that one. But definitely just want to start out with the Epstein thing. So I'm talking about Epstein. I'm going to talk about NATO. I think there's some cool dynamics that's happening with NATO. That's participating with Ukraine and Russia. As always, put your questions in the chat, put your comments in the chat. Let me know what you want to talk about. I'm going to talk about some inflation numbers too as well. We just are going to have a fun time today. I'm still going to let you out before your lunch is over. I want to be respectful of your time. So let's just get into it. What I want to do is I want to hit up the timeline of how we got here with Jeffrey Epstein. And I think because we've gotten so far into the conversation that we actually have forgotten some of the details of the case. I think we've forgotten the timeline of how we got to this moment that we're in, to which the base of the MAGA party is really upset with President Trump and the administration, in particular his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the internal conflict that is happening even within the Republican Party as a result of this Epstein case. And so I think that's really important for us just to kind of just to set the timeline. So I did take some time today and type out just some brief timeline just to go through it. I'm going to breeze through it just always so we can just start talking about it. Cool? Cool. All right, so let's just remember that on July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was charged in Manhattan with federal sex trafficking offenses, accused of abusing dozens of underage girls between 2002 and 2005. He pleaded not guilty for more than a decade after his 2008 state plea deal, and he served a 13-month jail time. Then in August of 2019, I want 2019 to resonate with you because this is during the first Trump administration, right? So during the first Trump administration, in August 2019, Epstein is found dead in the Metropolitan Correctional Center. The medical examiner ruled it was suicide. on August the 11th, 2019, President Trump amplifies the conspiracy theories. He was retweeting posts blaming President Bill Clinton and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for Epstein's death, and publicly asking whether Bill Clinton has ever went to the island. And then August 20th, see, that's important. Let me pause there. The reason I want to highlight that is because that establishes where we are with how these conspiracy theories really began to get amplified, right? And the onus that President Trump has on amplifying these conspiracies. And this is really what MAGA is holding him accountable for, right? You can't amplify it, want to get things down to the bottom of it, and then back away years later and say that there's nothing to see there, right? After you got this moment kind of riled up. Also, too, in August of 2019, the mantra, quote, Epstein didn't kill himself, end quote, starts to really take off and spread online, in particular with Joe Rogan and other Republican lawmakers echoing the slogan. So this is when I'm bringing in now, this is when I use Joe Rogan, as I really want to bring in the podcaster network and how the podcasters have been really keeping this dynamic alive, in particular certain lawmakers when it comes to that. And then you saw in December 29th, 2021, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's former associate, is convicted of sex trafficking and facilitating the abuse of underage girls. And then we move over to 2024, where we saw a trove of court documents from 2015 lawsuit by Virginia Giroff to unseal, naming high-profile associates, including Bill Clinton, Michael Jackson, David Copperfield, and Donald Trump, though none are formally accused of wrongdoing. That's important because now we're seeing President Trump's name in these documents. There was no of any wrongdoing. Then we see September 3rd, 2024, the campaign trail. President Trump initially pledges to declassify the Epstein files, but then he hedges, warning there will be, quote, phony stuff that could harm people's lives. And February 21st, 2025, in a Fox News interview, Attorney General Pam Bondi, now this is where we start getting to current day and where the controversy really begins to stem from. February 21st, 2025, in a Fox News interview, Attorney General Pam Bondi says a list of Epstein clients is, quote, sitting on my desk, end quote. Though she has clarified to say that she meant to say that it was the case file in totality and not a client roster. And then in February 2027, DOJ provides conservative influence. You guys remember this when influencers came to the White House? Conservative influencers with binders labeled, quote, the Epstein files phase 1, releasing little new information and leaving many conspiracy theorists not happy, right? Then June 2025, this is another key, Elon Musk tweets, but then he deletes it, that Trump is in the Epstein files, suggesting this is why the files haven't been made public, which just fans the flame even there, right? Because at this point, if you remember, this is when Elon Musk and Trump were having that feud, right? And as we know, Elon Musk and Trump were very close. And so what left to the imagination was in their close friendship and while they're talking, did the two of them talk about the Epstein files? Based upon that tweet that has since been deleted, one will have to assume that this is what was happening. But then this is what really irritated people to how we got here today, and I'm going to stop, is that July 7, 2025, the DOJ announces there is no surviving client list. They released 11-hour video from Epstein's cell block. Though it's a 1 minute footage, 1 minute of the footage is missing. A few more speculation. They went on further to say that there was no evidence of any blackmail that was used, and there's no more information to follow up, which has caused the base of the MAGA wing to be extremely upset about the transparency that you have seen. You've seen the podcasters be also too outraged at the accountability aspect of it. We've seen as of recent, President Trump has acknowledged and said that Attorney General Pam Bondi has done a good job of this, and that he also too supports her to release what is worthy to be released, that seems credible to be released. We also too began to see a split with Speaker Mike Johnson, who has also too now urged for all the files and all the documents to be released of this case. So here we are. That is a timeline. I just wanted to really level set so that we all have the information here, and we also have the information of how we got here and how we got to this place. There's a couple things at play. If you listen to the Mike Muse show on Sunday, I believe I talked about the idea of motivating factors. And I talked about the motivating factors of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with his need to keep going with this conflict and war between Israel and Gaza, also to entering the conflict with Iran. The question is he staying and doing continuously this war efforts in order to protect Israel, to defend Israel's rights to defend itself? Or is it also to protect his own personal interests because he was facing criminal charges prior to October the 7th? And so the more time there is to distract from that, the less that he is to be brought forward with any criminal charges. So you always have to ask yourselves, and this is my way of really wanting to talk to you guys about critical thinking, right? And understanding, and this new era that we're in, new media and digital media, that we have to think critically now about what is the motivating factors. And so as you are going to go about your day to day, as you're going to go about the week, when you start looking at news, I don't care where you're getting it from traditional news, classical news, new media, think critically and kind of ask yourself, like, what could be some of the motivating factors here at play? And that kind of led me from Speaker Mike Johnson. This is the first time that we saw Speaker Mike Johnson go against President Trump. For the most part, Speaker Mike Johnson kind of rose to prominence when he was just not having any leadership roles within the House, rose to prominence by being part of the fringe, by being part of the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. He got to the forefront of the party, then became Speaker of the House. What has helped to protect and save his role as Speaker of the House is being such lockstep with President Trump. There has been no separation. President Trump's agenda has been Speaker Mike Johnson's agenda. And Speaker Mike Johnson, to his credit, has, tactically been able to navigate all the fractures and factions of the Republican Party to move forward to pass a lot of President Trump's legislation agenda. But for the first time, we see the crack. You have to ask yourself, why is that? The midterms are coming up, right? If Speaker Mike Johnson is hearing from his constituents the frustration of this, they know that in the midterms, they are facing an uphill challenge to, one, protect the speakership and protect the conservative majority that is within the House. Speaker Mike Johnson does not want to jeopardize that. You also, too, see a lot of Republicans now coming out really saying they want more clarity and they want more transparency. So the challenge now at hand is, for the first time, President Trump is facing a crisis. He has never seen the MAGA wing of the party depart from him. He typically and tactically, I've always given President Trump credit for really understanding his base. I really thought that he's done a really great job of understanding the psychology of his base, understanding what motivates his base, and understanding how to give them enough catnip in order for them to latch onto it, and to help be his advocate, in terms of pushing his agenda and legislation along. This is the first time we're seeing the fracture. The base is saying, no, this isn't enough. And the part of the reason why it's enough is because the MAGA base, and there's many parts to the MAGA base, right? To the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. But one part of the MAGA wing of the Republican Party is this anti-establishment, right? This anti-elite. They believe that these elites, both in elected office and in corporations, are part of this pedophilia ring, right? Think about the Pizzagate that we saw with that pizza shop that was in DC going against Secretary Hillary Clinton. So they've always had this stronghold, this notion of these conspiracy theories about elite leaders organizing and being part of this pedophilia ring, right? And so this is something that they hold true to, right? This is almost like their North Star. And so for the mere fact that President Trump now is going back on seemingly the campaign promises of being able to release this information to make it transparent, they are questioning right now the transparency and accountability. Remember, President Trump said that he was going to drain the swamp. That was part of his big mantra the first time he got elected. The question I want to ask you, and the question that I'm asking, to MAGA supporters is, isn't now the MAGA wing of the Republican Party the elite, right? Like, isn't when you become an elected official, isn't when you start running these federal agencies, are you now part of this elite class? Well, if that's the case, President Trump has all of his people in. Every secretary, every cabinet secretary is his picks, right? Every secretary has passed the muster of the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. There is no bipartisanship that it was in the cabinet. So for all intents and purposes, this is the MAGA wing of the Republican Party. we look at the deputy FBI director, he comes from the podcast network, right? Like he comes from the network that was encouraging and promoting this idea of these Epstein files and encouraging for it to be released. He's now inside the system, right? When you think about the Secretary of Defense, he comes from Fox News. He comes from this commentary of really wanting to release these Epstein files. And so they're all now in the federal government. So isn't that the quote unquote swamp? Isn't that what he wanted to drain? Isn't that the elite? And so I think what you're seeing is the MAGA is really beginning to get to that point of questioning these individuals. And now are they the ones who are protecting this quote unquote pedophilia ring, right? It's amazing how conspiracy theories have usually been in a corner in the dark somewhere. But when you have a presidential candidate, and then when you have a returning president who begins to amplify and repost these things, it begins to add validity to it. And then when you have podcasts with these huge followings begin to amplify these stories more, it also too begins to give validity to it. And so now we're on a rabbit goose chase on whether or not and how to figure out if we can get these files. The Democrats, they want to hold Trump administration accountable and the transparency too as well, because from their perspective, it's like, hey, this is a big deal. There are children's lives who have been impacted by trafficking, right? And if there was any cover-up, if there has been any collusion with anyone who has helped with that matter, then release the files so that it can be transparent. Now, here's where cooler heads seemingly are prevailing. And I'm looking at you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, right? And I think this is the moment when leadership is tried and true, right? This is the moment when leadership arises, right? If she did make a mistake, this is now the time to fall on the sword, right? To say, listen, I made a mistake. It wasn't the files, the client list. It was the other files in general, but I am going to release the whole packet in its totality so that there is enough understanding of transparency of what is happening. The other part, though, folks, that we have to be mindful of is that not only are lives at stake with the children, but there are also two lives at stake for names who just may have been associated with the investigation, but nothing was tangible enough to accuse them of anything. So the question is, how much do you release? Do you release just everything? And John Doe and Sally Sue, who are public figures, have been named in that, but there is no evidence to back it up. Then are their names ruined, their lives ruined as a result of their names just being a part of this trove of documents, but there's no substantiating evidence to support whether or not they are guilty or innocent, or whether or not they should be indicted at all? And so that is the third thing that needs to be brought into the room here today, is that what if these names are in there? And is Pam Bondi protecting that, right? She needs to come clear with that. Or is it that Pam Bondi is protecting President Trump? Folks, there is no secret. We have seen videos of President Trump at Mar-a-Lago with Jeff Epstein. We have heard him talk about that Jeff Epstein likes them young. There is information from Flight Manifest, where at the time, Citizen Trump, his former wife and his daughter were on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, private planes, not once, but a few times in the 90s. And so you see them together. So the real question is too, do the MAGA believe that these elites are protecting Trump? And really it stems from that Elon Musk tweet. So I want to just go to the questions. I'm going to take a pause right there. I gave you a lot of information to think about from a multitude of different reasons, right? Always remember the motivating factor is, what is the motivating factor here, right? Like, what is actually the reason said person is responding this way, acting this way? Thinking about Speaker Mike Johnson. The next thing that we have to think about is how conspiracy theories get amplified and how they've given validity to these conspiracy theories. The third thing that we need to think about is what happens if all the files are released and there are names of public figures who are in there, but there is no supporting evidence to substantiate whether or not they should be indicted or brought upon charges. Do their lives get ruined to feed the machine of these conspiracy theories, right? This is a really classic case of be careful, right? When you begin to poke the bear, right? Or begin to poke the bees, the beehive, they can swarm, right? And what happens now? So there are some questions. I want to take some comments just to see what you guys are thinking, get a good pulse check to see what's happening. The first question we have is from Tyrone Elijah. What's up, Tyrone? Can they take some names off from the file to hide names? We all know can't trust them. That's a really great question. But with that being said, Tyrone, let's say in theory, they could redact the names, right? They could redact the names of individuals who were brought up in the investigation, but there was no evidence to substantiate that. But Tyrone, would that satisfy the need of those individuals who want more transparency? Or if you were to redact the names, would that seem more of a cover-up, right? Does it become more complicated by covering it? So is this a situation, Tyrone, and audience out there, is it damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Is it damned if you do, redact the names, but then damned if you don't, put the names there, there's no substantiating evidence that will occur. The question is it really about protecting President Trump? And I think that is kind of what the MAGA wing of the base is alluding to, but hasn't really come forward and said, which is really driving a lot of these conspiracy theories and narratives coming up. So I hope answer that question. We have a comment too from Peekaboo. I started to look up the Caesar salad dip because of you, Mike. Yes, Peekaboo. The part of the Caesar salad that said has people in the chokehold. I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. So yeah, so if there's any more questions, let me know right now where we stand. I see Roman, you're asking something about billions for concentration camps, $2 to fight human trafficking, possibly because it leads back to them. I think that is what the conspiracy theorists are asking when it comes to what is being hidden and what really needs to be examined here. I don't know how this ends. Honestly, I don't know what is in best interest. Is it best just to release everything? But I think this is what happens when Attorney General Pam Bondi said in February that she has the list on the table. As you are, and this is just a life lesson for everybody, right? Like, I'm taking my political hat off for a second, right? My political analysis hat on for a second. You have to ask, how bad do you want to be famous, right? Like, how bad do you want to go viral, right? Like, how bad do you want to entertain, right? Like, how bad do you want to be tongue-in-cheek, right? And where does this tongue-in-cheek get you, right? Because now as I begin to put my hat back on, as you see Attorney General Pam Bondi, by making that statement, by answering and saying, I have the client list on my desk, right? Was that being tongue-in-cheek, right? Was that to feed this emotional response and to get people going, right? And to keep in the news cycle and to keep, maybe and amplify, her brand, her narrative, right? But this is a case where it's coming back. Those words are coming back to really haunt her because of the fact that she said there was a list. So because you said there's a list, you're Attorney General of the United States. You are the highest officer in the land when it comes to have taken the bar and the oath, right, to administer justice, right? You're head of the Department of Justice. You can't just make flippant comments like this. So now the credibility has been damaged, all in being tongue-in-cheek, maybe. She says she wasn't talking about that, talking about the totality of the list. So as we are in this race in society to go viral, this is for everyone, non-politicians alike, as we're in this race for clickbait and to get more likes and shares, you have to be mindful of what you're liking and what you're sharing and what you're commenting on. This is real stuff. And this can really come back to bite you. Candia Herrera question says, so you think this entire ordeal will come into light later on in life or remain discreet forever? That is $1 million question. This is why this case has become so sensational as of, I'm going to mark February by Pam Bondi's words. It got more amplified with Elon Musk tweeting that tweet out, which then he deletes it, that because Trump's name was going to be in the files. And then you saw the Department of Justice issue that memo that there was nothing here to see, right? I'm paraphrasing, maybe more clear. They said there was no client list. There was no evidence of blackmail in order to keep Jeffrey Epstein in position and to protect the powerful and the elite. So all those series of events have really put us back here into this place and into this position. And so I don't know. I don't think it would have been as large of a moment if Pam Bondi wouldn't have said that she has the list. So it was a mere fact that she gave confirmation in that moment in February that there was a list and that Elon Musk made that tweet, which one would think that he was aware of the list. All right, Abdul says, is this something we should really be focusing on or stick to the economy and trade? It's a really great question, Abdul. I've always said that when you are an elected official, you have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And so because this is now such a national interest story, is that this actually now has to be addressed. And it's a national interest story of the MAGA's own doing, of President Trump's own doing on the campaign trail. And so because they made such a big deal about it, they do have to address it. While at the same time, they do have to focus on the economy. While at the same time, they do have to focus on other domestic issues here. While at the same time, they do have to focus on immigration. And so we are just now at this point where I always say, I can't curate the news, right? Like, I wish I could pick and choose what news of the day that I would like, but that's not the way the world works anymore, right? Like, you can't pick the news because news is happening so much on an hourly basis. You have to talk about what is happening. And so we have to talk about it now. And so now it's a matter of, they could get ahead of it, and this could at least put a dent in it by saying, here's all the files, here's all the evidence, here's what we got, right? But we'll see by them doing it, not doing it, Democrats putting a motion on the bill in order to give clearance for allow for some of these files to go through, Republicans blocking it. When you start doing those political gamesmanship, it only exasperates the story even more. That's a really great question. Waylon Chisholm asked, how much, if any, do the victims have in this information being released? I think the question is how much say, right? Let me ask again. So how much, if any, say do the victims have this information being released? At this point, they can talk about it and ask for it not to be released. But at the end of the day, the idea is it better for the pursuit of justice and for transparency and understanding? Do you go ahead and just release it? That is another question too. They can say,
they're never going to release it with the victims' names.
Yeah,
always because they're minors.
Yeah. So they're not gonna. I just been checked, but just been getting some clarification. The victims' names would never be released because they were minors at the time. So thank you for that moment. Let's see. Abdul came in. Let me go to option 4 because Abdul, I've already asked your question. Option 4 says Trump's name may not be on there, but his associates may. In dealings of this horrible matter, would it even be smart to have a list? I mean, that's a really interesting point and question that you asked. Option 4, right? Like, I'm assuming you're asking, if such sensitive things that was happening, they were doing some nefarious moments, should they have even wrote anything down? Like, I can't get in the mind of criminal behavior and criminal activity, right? One would think that they would write anything down. But there is something I want to just throw out there, though. There is this quote-unquote black book that is out there of names of associates of Jeffrey Epstein's. I don't know what that black book means or it says, right? I think we all have, over time, have numbers in our phones and numbers I have in my contact list I use for various things and contact and have different relationships. Some I may know, some I may not know. I'm also not doing anything nefarious, but I don't know if the black book is any strong evidence of what is possible and what could be. All right. Let me do a comment. I'm coming back to you, Abdul. Jody, you say it's insane that we can't trust our own president or his people. I think that is what is causing the MAGA wing of the Republican Party to be so frustrated. But also just the rest of America now at this point of like transparency and who and what can be trusted, which is really how the Trump administration really arose, right? About like being transparent, right? Wanting to be the most transparent administration around and taking press conferences and really President Trump addressing the press he doesn't do much censorship, right? He's always down to speak when you see those press gaggles like outside the White House. He's always down to answer some questions. Steph Order says, insane, yes, but Pam is definitely going in the history books for this mess along with Trump now. That's a really great question. The idea is our legacy. How do we want to be remembered, right? Sam W says, I feel like we're living in an episode of Scandal. The spins and rewrites of the situation is crazy. That's a really good point. Do we need Olivia Pope to come in with her white hat and solve the day? I'm going to wrap this part up. we can move on. But this is a story that we're going to be talking about for days to come. Clearly, I'll talk about the Mike Muse Show this weekend, Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sirius XM Overview Channel 126. Make sure you tune in. But I do see we have one new conversation that's coming into the chat, and that's from Greg Brown. I do want to address you, Greg Brown, as I keep seeing your name. I want to make sure you get things going. But I am going to switch and pivot to NATO after I wrap up this one. But loving the engagement, loving the comments. Kat, have I missed anything? Yeah. All right. Loving everything. This is fun. This is great. There's so much more to unpack. I'm sure President Trump will be making a statement about this, and I would say giving him about another 2 hours. So maybe we need to jump back on another 2 hours to see what's the latest update on this. This is what makes this history so fascinating. Greg Brown. The Supreme Court is making rulings without any reason, justifications, or anything that we can do. Whoa. So I'm going to answer that question because I read it. From there, and then I'm going to get into NATO. That's a really, really great question. This is a moment where I think America is for the first time seeing just how powerful the co-equal branches of government are. And I think America now is understanding about this idea of checks and balances. And the reason why our founding fathers created these co-equal branches of government to ensure that one part of the co-equal branch didn't become too powerful. Because through the century, I don't care if there was Republicans in the Oval Office or a Democrat was in the Oval Office, there was always this checks and balances that was there, right? And there was a respect. People were upset, obviously, but the legislative branch respected ultimately the executive branch. The executive branch ultimately respected the judicial branch. The judicial branch ultimately, respected the legislative and the executive. And so there was always like this checks and balances. As we are seeing with this administration and this time period, this goes to the point I was making earlier about we're living in history. We're starting to see the limits of these branches being tested, in particular the executive branch. We're starting to see the executive branch start to have an expansion of authorities and powers based upon the rulings from the Supreme Court. This was one of the fears of the founding fathers, which is why they wanted to have the co-equal branches. But in the founders' mind, when they create the idea the legislative branch will be able to hold the executive branch accountable is because they will be elected by the people. And so the idea was that the people would put people in place in the legislative branch that will be able to hold the executive branch accountable because it's the voice of the people. We're not seeing that element. It's almost as if the legislative branch is becoming weakened by the executive branch as it began to expand its power based upon what you see happening in the Supreme Court, allowing the executive branch power to be expanded. Something I can point to right now is the bill that just got passed yesterday on the spending bill regarding over $9 billion in funding, right? Part is to take it away from the foreign aid, and another part is to take away from PBS, which we talked about here on the MuseRoom about, I think, when I first launched this, right? This idea is that what the legislative branch is saying is like, whoa, this is a budget and funding that we already authorized and we already approved. You, the executive branch, just can't unilaterally come in and remove money as you see fit because you want to. In fairness, the Trump administration did go through the proper procedures in order to put this to the floor for the $9 billion funding to be cut from the budget, right? And it passed, right? But that is such a rare instance. The last time that was used was underneath Bill Clinton's presidency, the last time that measure was done. So what we're seeing again now is the expansion of the executive branch. The power of the purse has always been at the helm of Congress. Like that is one of the legislative branch's signature things that they do, right? Is that they control the money in the federal budget and they set the goal for that. So to see the executive branch be able to come in and to usurp it, because there's going to be a vote pretty soon to see if those cuts do go through, the way things have been happening as of late, I'm sure it will pass, right? And so again, that's cutting into the co-equal branches and the guardrails of the legislative branch. Because to your point, Gregory Brown, is that the Supreme Court has been really favorable to President Trump through the expansion of the executive branch. Now, the Supreme Court may have a different point of view on this. What they would probably say is that we're not actually judging the merits of some of these cases. We're judging how the case was brought forward to us and or how the lower courts have made these decisions based upon that, right? And so that's an interesting dynamic unto itself. But to lean into the Supreme Court just for a quick second, I think we're also too seeing just how all-powerful the Supreme Court is. Right? Again, there's always been a balanced Supreme Court. I think this is one of the first times, if I'm not mistaken, Kat, that we've seen such a supermajority within the Supreme Court where the balance is off with the ideology of conservative ideology or liberal ideology, right? This is a supermajority conservative ideology court who has been appointed by President Trump. Now, I'm not saying that, the Supreme Court is supposed to be unbiased, right? I want to make sure I put that out there. But you are seeing now just how unchecked the Supreme Court is. When you think about the rules and ethics, just, look at the rules and ethics, like there is no one to hold the Supreme Court accountable, right? They kind of self-govern themselves, which is, we've never had to really, we've always known it, but we never had to think about it or to even exercise, like, can they be removed? Who punishes them, right? But then also, too, the other interesting thing is, I wasn't going to talk about this, but this is such a fascinating question, Gregory. The other thing was the idea of, you've heard this narrative, audience, the constitutional crisis, right? So the idea of the constitutional crisis is the Supreme Court can release opinions, right, and to say yay or nay or something. But technically in the Constitution, there is no enforcement on the executive branch can do it or not, right? And so even that's been interesting, but there's always just been this understanding in the executive branch, Republican or Democrat, you respect the decisions of the Supreme Court, whether you like it or not. Republicans have not enjoyed decisions that have been handed down by Supreme Court who've been in the Oval Office, and Democrats who've been in the Oval Office have not enjoyed decisions that have been handed down by Supreme Court. At the end of the day, the courts has ruled, final offer, if you will, or final answer. It's kind of moved on. So, wow, Gregory, that was a really great question. You let me go down a little rabbit hole on that one. That was really fun, testing it out. All right, we're approaching 1:46. I want to pause right there. I told you I'm only going to do this for an hour because it's lunchtime. I do want to hit on just NATO really quickly, but I do want to get to some little bit of fun conversation. The Emmys came out. The Clips album is out. Nicki Minaj and SZA's beefing. It's a lot happening, right? But I do want to talk about, we do have colleges. And so if there's any questions or comments, I'm just going to keep going with it. But I'm having fun. Are y'all having fun? I am having a ball. I'm having a good time right now. The part I do want to talk about, though, just really quickly, is NATO. And the reason I think that's important as we watch, in particular, United Nations Week is upon us. I know it's only July, and I'm already looking forward to United Nations Week. I told you I'm a policy geek and wonk. I love this stuff. That's coming up in September. That's called United Nations General Assembly. And that's when, you guys are familiar with that. That's when everybody's coming in town. But as you guys know, I love geopolitics, right? I love discussing geopolitical dynamics and spaces. And I thought what was really interesting and really tactical from President Trump was what he's been able to negotiate with NATO, right? I call it coming to the middle, right? His wing of the MAGA wing of the Republican Party and Republican Party as a whole. Well, let me take that back. The MAGA wing of the Republican Party is really anti-United States interest in Ukraine and wanting us to get out of the conflict and war. There are still some moderate Republicans in the House and the Senate who do strongly believe in United States support of Ukraine, recognizing that it is a bigger issue to be addressed here, that to make sure that Putin is not able to take control of Ukraine, right? So that Putin cannot reimagine the USSR as he would, and possibly run up and put a border up against Poland, which is a NATO state, which then will make America have to put boots on the ground because of the NATO article and the treaty that exists within that. And so there are Republicans out there who do stand up for Ukraine. But as a result, we've seen this cozy relationship that President Trump has had with President Putin. We've seen that now becoming out of step. We're seeing that President Putin is aggressively creating an offensive assault against Ukraine this summer in ways that we've never seen it before escalate to this moment that we are in, seemingly not heeding the advice of President Trump of pulling back and mating and wanting to have a ceasefire that come to position. And so President Trump is upset. Again, goes back to my earlier comment. What is a motivating factor here? Now President Trump is interested now in working with NATO in order to buy our military artillery so that NATO pays for it. So then we get revenue to our treasury. The ammunition, with the artillery, would then come to the United States, flow through NATO, and then NATO can then determine how they want to allocate it to Ukraine, which is just going to go to Ukraine. So that way, it's President Trump talking to his base saying, my hands are off of it. Listen, we got money. We got revenue from it. We sold it to NATO. Now NATO is pushing it to Ukraine. It also too makes us less offensive act towards Russia if our military artillery is being used and is directly used against Russia. That kind of almost indirectly by proxy puts us into the space and into the fight. That's always been one of the narratives of caution, in particular President Trump. But it's seemingly now that President Trump is upset with Putin. So the question of the motivating factor is, has Trump had a turnabout about Ukraine and wanting to be a support and ally to Ukraine? Or is it he is feeling embarrassed and frustrated by President Putin? And so almost like this end of this friendship. And so as a result, now let's do these weapons. It goes back to the question I asked earlier about critical thinking and asking what is the motivating factor here? Because he has not been so easily pro-Ukraine up until this point. Think about that very confrontational Oval Office meeting with President Trump, J.D. Vance, and President Vladimir Zelensky. That's a very antagonistic public discourse and scolding against Zelensky. So again, ask yourself, what is the motivating factors within that? But I do think that it was very good tactically of President Trump to be able to do two things at the same time. Calm the MAGA wing of the Republican Party and his base by saying, listen, our artillery was sent, but we got paid for it. But at the same time, allowing NATO to purchase it, and then so that artillery goes to support of Ukraine. So I actually thought that was a good deal that went forward. All right. In closing, and I hate we have to close it, right? I just want to keep going and going and going and going. Really quickly, the Emmys are out. The one thing I am watching out for is The Pit. I have been screaming The Pit for so long. I want everybody to see The Pit. I think it's a brilliant show. I think they're going to rack up. And I think the studio is also, too, going to rack up. Kat, you got any?
Paradise!
Oh, my God.
Paradise! Those are people. I mean,
Paradise.
Really Pit, I mean, people are talking Severance, but I think The Pit.
I think The Pit, too. Don't attack me, folks. I don't understand Severance. And to be clear,
I understand it.
I mean, to be clear,
find it very dark.
It's dark. Here, okay, Kat. Let me tell you, Kat's in the building. I was told I got to the first 4 episodes of season 1, and I'm like, I don't get it. Meaning, I don't get the hype. So I'm not entertained by it. But I'm informed that you have to go past episode 4 to really lock in. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, maybe I'll lock in episode 5. Are y'all rocking with Severance? Is this
I get to vote this year, so I'm gonna have to.
Oh, we have an Emmy voter in the house, y'all.
Yeah.
MuseRoom, they got some special people. Are we elite? Is the MuseRoom elite? Is the MuseRoom part of the problem? Kat, let me see your contact list.
Out. Yeah. I am excited that somebody somewhere got a writing nod, and that Jeff Hiller got a supporting actor nod in comedy, because that's my friend Bridget Everett. Great show on HBO. I'm glad it got recognized. That's my sleeper pick for any category it's nominated in.
Is what? Somewhere?
Somebody Somewhere.
Somebody Somewhere. I never seen that.
It's really good.
HBO?
HBO, yeah.
We have homework, the MuseRoom. It's somebody somewhere. Wait, have I seen that? Somebody Somewhere. I don't think I have. Okay, anyway. The Pit. I'm going to give Severance a shot. I'll try and get to episode 5, and we'll see about what happens. Oh, my gosh. Candida. Kat, how did we miss this one? Don't forget about the ESPYs tonight. Yes. Wow. Okay. I love the ESPYs, by the way. Shout out to the ESPYs. All right. In closing, I just want to we always do a Mike's movement, right? And it's really about how can we push, as I always say, democracy is in our hands, right? And I always think that one vote really does make a difference. And I'm always encouraging people I always say the cavalry is not coming to save you. Shout out to Chanel Hardy. She's the one who put that in my head. She's the originator of it, but she was constantly reminding me and others that the cavalry is not coming to save us, so we have to save ourselves, right? So that's kind of the constitution and the motivation behind Mike's movement, because I'm always talking to you all about, don't wait for me or someone else to do it, or you can do it. Part of the thing that the team we were really talking about is, look, it's back to school. And I see Candida said, hook 'em horns, right? So I'm back to school. We're about to get ready to get moved back into college, into the dorms. And I've been very privileged and fortunate. I'm sure a lot of you have been privileged and fortunate too as well, that we have loved ones who help move us into the dorms, right? We had loved ones, whoever your loved one is, whether it's a friend, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a mom or dad, whatever, mentor, help move you into the dorms, right? Help make your bed up, the sheets, drove you there, went to Kroger, Meijer, Walmart. I made that very Midwest here. Shout out to Myers, but some store to get your snacks, your Cheez-Its, your Doritos, right? Your pop, soda, sorry. And so, but there's a lot of individuals who don't have that, right? There's a lot of people who are aging out of the foster care system, who are about to go into college, who doesn't have that infrastructure to go forward. There's a lot of people who will be moving into college by themselves, probably coming off of a plane with just a suitcase, not really realizing that they need to bring the sheets, not really realizing that they're gonna need some snacks to fill their room. And so we were just thinking about like ways that we can all support to kind of help these individuals who are doesn't have the privilege of having a support group as they move in. And so we want to give you a couple of websites that you can help donate and to help these movements for people who may need a little bit more assistance on that first week. It's a scary time for all of us who know this, even if you do come from a privileged position of love. And privilege doesn't mean $1 billion. Privilege is just, did you have love who helped move you in? College is a very frightening moment. I remember, and I don't mind sharing a little vulnerable moment. I remember my mom and dad moved me in. And I remember I had to pull up to East Quad, University of Michigan. You know what I'm talking about. I had to pull up to East Quad at the time to get my student ID. And I remember my dad parked in front of East Quad, it's a dorm. And he said, do you want me to come with you to get your ID? Me being the big and bad 17-year-old that I was, I'm like, nah, I'm grown. I'm an adult. I'm the University of Michigan. I got this. I don't need y'all no more. I'm grown, right? I can do this. Man, I stepped out the car confidently, opened up that door, got into the sidewalk, pulled open that door and saw all those people and began to tremble. And I wanted to say, Dad, come in with me, right? I was scared shitless and extremely nervous. But no matter what, at the end of the day, I knew after I maneuvered that, I was going to go right back to my mom and dad who was waiting for me in the car to give me comfort. And so a lot of people don't have that. And so with that being said, there is Move-In Day Mafia. We're going to put the websites below. So come back to the chat. Come back to this YouTube link right here. And we'll put all these links in the bio description of it. But it's just www.moveinmafia.org. Move-In Day Mafia is a mob of volunteers who descend upon HBCUs to provide dorm room makeovers and monthly care packages to students who have aged out. Also, too, there's another organization called Believe in Students. That's just believeinstudents.org. Believe in Students is the nation's only nonprofit organization built to help college students meet those basic living expenses. So we'll put those in the chat, man. If you guys remember your college days, your move-in, how nervous you were, let me know. Let me see some hearts out there if y'all were nervous y'all first day kind of moving in, right? And kind of understanding what that feels like. But with that being said, man, this has been so much fun. I'm so glad to be back. I didn't stop smiling at all during that whole time, I don't think. Again, to qualify, these are serious subject matters. I'm very aware. I'm just excited to talk about it with you guys, unpack it from an analysis perspective. And I guess you guys got a chance to see the geek in me and how excited I get about talking about these things. So with that being said, folks, I love y'all. We are rocking. We've been meeting. We're about to scale. We're about to go hard, folks. And we're super duper excited for all the energy you guys bring to the MuseRoom every week. I know we were off for a couple of weeks, and here y'all are. Y'all came right back to it. We didn't miss a beat, folks. So you can find me everywhere now this week. I'm on ABC News Live tonight at 5:30 discussing some of these topics. And always make sure you tune in to the Mike Muse Show Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have a special town hall with Happy Gilmore 2, the cast. That's going to be great. And then Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always catch me on Sway in the Morning, too, as well. Don't forget, Ask Mike is coming up on Friday. Get your questions ready. All right, folks. Until next time. Peace. Love y'all.
Good job.